delicious. You can't have any of it, Scott. Oh, that's good. Hi guys, I'm Grace. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make a super quick and easy 15-minute vegan paneer. It's really good for when you get home from work. You can rustle it up super quickly. So we're going to start with the tofu. And you can actually get really good tofu now from most local supermarkets. We use one made by the Arty Vegan, and it's the most delicious organic handmade tofu. But all you really need to look for is a good firm one. But I particularly like this one because it looks like a goldfish in a bag. So we're going to drain the water. Most of good firm tofu comes in water. And it's really important for this recipe to make sure that your tofu is as dry as possible. And the way I like to dry it is by pressing it in a clean tea towel or kitchen paper. But you don't need to get too carried away with the pressing. Some people will tell you to, weigh it down for hours. But all I do is kind of wrap it up and then just put a bit of pressure on it. Turn it around. It's quite therapeutic as well. And then I'm just going to let it kind of sit in that and drain a bit longer while I get my spice mix ready for the tofu. So we're going to coat it in a spiced corn flour coating, and that just makes sure that it's really nice and crispy and a really good way to impart flavour onto it. So I've got corn flour here. I'm going in with about 3 tablespoons. If you haven't got corn flour lying around, then any plain flour works as well, but this just gets it really extra crispy. So generous pinch of salt in there. And then we're going to go in with our spices. So these are similar spices that you'd use in a paneer, traditional kind of paneer curry recipe. So about a teaspoon of garam masala, a nice bit of chili powder, probably half a teaspoon of that, and ground cumin. You want a good teaspoon of ground cumin. And then smoked paprika, which is such a good ingredient for vegan cooking because the smokiness just adds a whole new complexity to your dishes, almost like a meaty, deep flavour. So a good generous teaspoon of smoked paprika. And then just a pinch of ground black pepper, which adds a spiciness but in a different way. Really nice, warm spiciness. And again, it's kind of you're building your layers of flavour with these different spices. And then the last ingredient we're going to add is nutritional yeast, which is a secret ingredient in most vegan cooking when you're looking for like a nice, savoury, almost cheesy flavour. Obviously, this isn't paneer, which is cheese, it is tofu. So the nutritional yeast just really adds that cheesy, savoury flavour. So we're going to try and break it up. It comes like this, almost like fish foody flakes. So between your fingers, you just want to make sure that you're making it as fine as possible so that it spreads evenly on the tofu. And then we're going to mix all of this around. Cool, I think that's done. So while your tofu is drying and your spice mix is ready to go, I'm going to get a pan really nice and hot. We want to fry the tofu in nice hot oil so that the outside really crisps. So I'm going to coat the pan generously with oil. You don't need to deep fry it, but you want a good amount of oil. We don't want the tofu to stick. That should do it. Okay, so we're leaving that to get nice and hot. And now we're going to prepare the tofu. Unwrap it. There we go. Look, it's kind of squished down a bit. That's no problem at all. It's quite a thick block anyway, so we're going to just chop it up into cubes. So if you've eaten paneer before, what we're looking for, it comes in nice rectangles. So we're just looking to replicate that really. So now your tofu is cut into neat little cubes. You can add it to the flour mix. So careful not to break it up. And then we're just going to kind of make sure that every side is coated as we go. So when your tofu is evenly coated like this, you can gently place it in the hot oil. It's probably still going to spit up at me, but oh no, that's perfect. So you need a good sizzle, that's when you know your oil's hot enough. And then we're going to pop them all on one side in the pan. Okay, so we're going to resist the temptation to touch those tofu until they're really crispy on one side. And then we'll turn them over and fry them evenly on all sides and then set them aside. So the tofu has now been turned over and I'm leaving it to crisp up on the other side. And I'm going to get my onions going in another pan. So you want quite a large pan for this. Again, high heat and drizzle of oil. I'm going to use half a red onion. Red onion's really good because it's got a really nice natural sweetness to it, which works well in this dish. And I will always slice an onion unless it's essential that it's diced because it's so much easier. And I really like the texture it adds to a dish. In curries, sliced onion I always think works better. So when your oil's hot, start by adding some cumin seeds. You want a generous pinch of cumin seeds, like that. And then we're going to wait for those to get golden. They start smelling delicious, and then we know it's ready for the onion. It's time for the onion. And whenever you add onions to a pan, they always have to be followed by a generous pinch of salt. And that does two things. It starts flavouring the dish from the beginning, and it also draws out moisture from the onion, and it helps them cook down quicker. So we're going to let these cook away nicely, and the tofu is now ready to go. So just make sure, can you see it's now crisped up really nicely on both sides? So that's ready to be put onto a plate. We'll leave it on a plate until the onion mix is ready. So the onions are beginning to soften, which means they're ready for your garlic and ginger. We're going to use about thumb-sized piece of ginger and probably 3 large cloves of garlic. I always like a generous amount of garlic. I don't think you can ever have too much garlic personally. And that's going to be a green chilli for a minute. So with garlic and ginger, the easiest thing to do is just to grate it. So I never mess around with peeling ginger. So we're going to just grate it straight away onto the board. So if there's bits of skin in there, really don't worry about it because they're going to cook out in the pan. So we're going to add the ginger to the pan. Give it a good stir. And then the garlic, the easiest way to peel it is just give it a good bash with the side of your knife. And then the skin should come off easy. Look at that. Like a dream. So same thing as the ginger, just give it a grate. And this works a bit better than chopping the garlic, I think, because really it helps to release all the flavour of the garlic. And again, don't throw these parts away. They can go straight into the pan. They're going to break down. Cool, so any of the big bits that have missed the grater, just run your knife through those. Straight into the pan. So, look, the onions are really nice and caramelised now. So the garlic and the ginger really won't take long to cook out. So now it's time for tomato paste. So this dish is quite a dry dish. I'm not doing a curry sauce with it. But tomato paste is a good way to add, you know, another flavour element, a bit more body to the dish. And we'll squeeze in what's probably the equivalent of about a tablespoon of tomato paste. Oh, and it's also come out of my the tube onto my hand. So stir that. Now, whenever I add tomato paste to a dish, I always add sugar. And sugar really brings out the natural sweetness of tomatoes. So a pinch of sugar. It's about half a teaspoon in there. So you really don't want your tomato paste to be raw because it tastes almost kind of tinny when it's raw. So we're going to let that cook out. And by the time that's cooked out, the onion, the garlic and the ginger will all be ready. And before I forget, I'm going to add the green chilli. So a nice way to add green chilli is just to slit it down the middle. I leave the seeds in. I like a bit of spice. And then in that way you get the flavour, all the flavour of the green chilli. You get a bit of the spice, but not too much. If you want it hotter, you could finely slice the green chilli. That's going to make it a lot spicier. Okay, and the last spice I'm going to add to the mix is turmeric. So I always add turmeric as the last spice because it really helps build up those layers of spices and flavouring. It's a really strong spice and it can be quite bitter, so only around half a teaspoon of the turmeric. So the turmeric's in there, the onion mix is cooked down, tomatoes are cooked. Now it's time to add the tofu back into the frying pan. So in it goes. Oh, so crispy. So we just want to make sure that the tofu's mixed in with the spice mix, so the flavour runs all the way through the dish. So the final thing I'm going to add is some frozen peas, and they're going to add a really nice sweetness and freshness to the dish, and obviously some much needed colour. Don't fill my freezer. So these can go straight from the freezer into the pan. Paneer and peas are a really classic combo in Indian cooking. Just something about the kind of creaminess of the paneer, in this case the tofu, and that real fresh sweetness of peas works super well. So they only take a couple of minutes from frozen to cook out. And I'm going to add some lemon juice to this. I think that's going to really help bring out the flavours, and also it's going to add some moisture which will help cook the peas a bit quicker. So just half a lemon, be absolutely fine. Squeeze it straight in. One. Oh, smelling so good. So that's just finishing cooking. And we're just going to prep a tiny bit of coriander for garnish. So just run a knife through it. You just need it roughly chopped. This will work really well with rice, quinoa, by itself, with some naan. So there we have it. A really quick, easy, delicious vegan paneer recipe with peas. And now, obviously, I've got to try it. It's going to be hot though. Mmm. That's good. That tofu is so crispy. The spice has penetrated right the way through. Perfect level of heat in there. And those peas just make it super fresh and sweet. It's great. Delicious. You can't have any of it, Scott. Oh, that's good. Right.